You've probably seen the shocking headlines: Bishop stabbed during live stream sermon. So who really was the man who got stabbed? Mar Mari Emmanuel, the controversial Iraqi-born TikTok bishop, whose fiery sermons and uncompromising views have made him a social media sensation.
Let me say this, whether you agree or disagree, with love and respect, when America goes, Christians are the number one will be persecuted by the next superpower, which is China. And again, I'm not talking about the Chinese people. I'm talking about the dragon, which is that government of China.
With over 240,000 followers. From fleeing war-torn Iraq as a child to being targeted in an act of religiously motivated extremism at his own church, Emmanuel's life has been a roller coaster. But who is this polarizing figure really? What led an ordinary bank manager to become an influential voice against LGBTQ rights, COVID vaccines, and even the United Nations? Let's rewind a little and take a look at his. If you thought religious leaders stayed out of controversy these days, think again. Meet Mar Mari Emmanuel, the social media phenomenon they call the TikTok bishop. With over 240,000 online followers tuning into his sermons, this Iraqi-born Australian prelate has catapulted himself into the spotlight with his polarizing views on everything from LGBTQ rights to COVID vaccines to Joe Biden's election. Emmanuel's meteoric rise to internet fame hasn't been without its share of backlash and threats. In fact, the unthinkable happened when the 53-year-old bishop was brutally stabbed during a live stream at his church in what authorities described as an act of religiously motivated extremism. Somehow, even after staring death in the face, Emmanuel's response was as powerful as his sermons. So who is this deeply controversial yet resilient figure? And what transformative life experiences shape the man behind the massive digital pulpit? Let's uncover the shocking truths about Mar Mari Emmanuel, the bishop who went from refugee to religious rebel with an incredible story you won't believe. Early life. He was born Robert Schleman on July 19, 1970 in Haditha, Iraq, to a devout Christian family. Can you imagine growing up in a war-torn country like Iraq during that time? Emmanuel's family had to flee Baghdad in the early 1980s and settle in Sydney, Australia, where he attended Fairfield High School. Before becoming a priest, Emmanuel worked as a bank manager in the 1990s. But his true calling was in the church, and he was ordained as a deacon in the late 1990s and then a priest in 2009. Tenure as bishop. In 2011, Emmanuel was ordained as a bishop in the ancient Church of the East, but his tenure was not without controversy. In 2014, he was suspended for disobeying certain canons, only to be briefly reinstated and then suspended again. After this tumultuous period, Emmanuel decided to establish his own independent church in the Eastern Syriac tradition in 2015. Christ the Good Shepherd Church in Wakeley, New South Wales. This church hosts the highest number of Assyrian Christians, many of them refugees from Iraq and Syria, in any suburban Australian neighborhood. Now, let's talk about what has made Emmanuel truly famous, his social media presence. With his distinctive look, dark pulpit gown, large cross, and beard under a black cowl, Emmanuel's sermons delivered in both English and Assyrian have gained him the moniker TikTok Bishop. His sermons on platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok cover a wide range of topics, from homilies on the Holy Bible to critiques of LGBTQ rights, COVID-19 vaccinations, and even Joe Biden's election. Emmanuel has also appeared on popular YouTube podcasts, garnering millions of views. But with the fame comes controversy. Emmanuel's outspoken views have made him a target for criticism, hate speech, and internet trolling. Some of his claims, like labeling the United Nations as established by Satan and calling the World Health Organization a fraud, have raised eyebrows. Speaking of controversies, Emmanuel has been embroiled in several. In 2021, during the COVID-19 Delta variant outbreak in Sydney, He criticized the vaccinations and lockdowns, calling them mass slavery, and the coronavirus just another type of the flu. He has also been known for preaching anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, describing homosexuality as a crime in the eyes of God. Additionally, Emmanuel has criticized non-Christian religions like Judaism and Islam, claiming Islam flourished and expanded with the sword. 2024 stabbing attack. But perhaps the most shocking incident in Emmanuel's life was the stabbing attack he endured on April 15, 2024, during a live-streamed sermon at his church. A 16-year-old assailant shouting Allahu Akbar stabbed Emmanuel repeatedly with a switchblade, leaving him with lacerations to his head. The attacker also stabbed 5 others, with police describing the incident as religiously motivated extremism and a terrorist act. Emmanuel underwent surgery and was lucky to be alive, according to NSW Police Commissioner Karen Webb. In the face of such a horrific attack, Emmanuel's response was nothing short of inspiring. Just 3 days after the stabbing, in an online audio sermon from Liverpool Hospital, he forgave the attacker and urged his followers not to seek revenge. In his own words, "Love never fails. Whatever has happened to me personally, I thank the Lord Jesus. I forgive whoever has done this act, and I say to him, 'You are my son. I love you, and I will always pray for you.' And whoever sent you to do this, I forgive them as well, in Jesus' mighty name. I have nothing in my heart but love for everyone. Whether this person is Christian or not, that is totally beside the point." Whether you agree with his views or not, it's hard not to be inspired by his ability to forgive and preach love, even in the face of such a horrific attack. So who is Mar Mari Emmanuel? He's a man who has defied all odds, rising from humble beginnings in Iraq to becoming a social media sensation and a voice for Assyrian Christians around the world. Love him or hate him, there's no denying the impact he's had and will continue to have on the world stage.